Oh, hello, my wonderful, beautiful broskies of the wonderful, beautiful Maverick Nation. I am the Dark, the Shadow, the Maverick, the Dark Shadow Maverick. And it is now time for part 2 of What If Izuku Midoriya was the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Last time we basically left off with a whole lot of shit, actually. However, there are two little problems that were basically plopped down on the last part. First problem being, I didn't mention that in defense form, along with his other dragon features, he has dragon wings. Just thought that'd be something to, mention. And yes, they are exactly like the Blue Eyes White Dragon wings. And, well, the second thing is the fact that basically mentioned that Bakugo was applying for UA, but I didn't mention Tenko or Izuku applying for UA. But they are. That's why they're taking the entrance exam. Because it's been 10 months, now it's time to do this thing. Time to do this shit. And a little fun thing that Izuku decided to do. Well, if you guys are gonna ask if Izuku's gonna trip, and that's how he's gonna meet Uraraka, he can fly, so I don't see him tripping. And plus, because of the fact that he's basically able to take out all of his bullies, Bakugo and his cronies, just show them who was boss. He has a lot of a confidence boost. And all the family support he has. He's a lot more confident than in canon. Plus, he can fly, so why would he trip? And he's a lot less paranoid because of confidence boost and, support from family. However, one thing that does indeed intrigue Izuku a lot is the fact that his father, legal father, Shota Aizawa, pretty much tells him the day before he takes the entrance exam, basically, just like 5 days before the entrance exam, he ends up telling him that he's going to be a teacher at UA. Only 5 days before the entrance exam is whenever Aizawa tells him this. Because he doesn't want to be too cruel and tell him, 1 day before, so he decides he'll give him a tiny bit of slack. Instead of 1 day, 5 days. He'll give him that much leeway. And it's only because of... what's her name? Ryuku. It's only because of Ryuku getting on to Aizawa that he actually gives Izuku that leeway of 5 days instead of 1 day before the entrance exam. 5 days. Izuku doesn't really know how to feel about that. Like, any of that. And, well, is the situation happy? Well, you guys might also be wondering, wait, if Tanko's going to get in here, then, like, wouldn't we have to remove somebody? Like, have them not actually get in? And if so, who would I remove? Well, if we're to really think about this, Uraraka is basically, Izuku's arm candy. I mean, the only thing that really makes her all that useful, can you really call main character arm candy a useful thing to have? Except for, like, plot armor that it gives you. May or may not give you. The only real actual useful thing is, like, the gunhead martial arts. Her quirk is just messing with gravity. And most of the time it probably doesn't even work all that much in her favor. And even if it does, it's probably not all that much. So yeah. I'm really not that much. As you can see, I am really not all that, as you guys can probably tell, I'm really not that much big, Ochako Uraraka fan. So, plus, I don't want to be generic and get rid of all the same people all the time. So, let's just say Uraraka, due to be basically being like dead weight at like the end of the exam, plus like more or less mediocre scores on the written portion, like, let's just say there's not much potential seen. So she doesn't actually make it in. And so Tenko's able to make it in. Plus, people actually know that in terms of biological family, he's actually the grandson of a one-for-all user. So that does give him extra, leeway on the side of the heroes. And, well, with that, let's just say that it's a little bit of an experiment. Let's just say that it can easily be said by having Shoto Aizawa and, Ryuku as your parents, and having an aunt who is Mirko, of all people. Yeah. You're not going to lose that. In fact, I'd be hard-pressed to actually even dare say that they would. So yeah, that's kind of obvious. So whenever they get to the practical portion of the exam, basically, Izuku actually did a little fun experiment before actually getting to the Mall City. He had 4 cards laid down. 2 blue eyes. These are actually the same blue eyes that he used against the bullies. And the barrier spell card, and another monster card, this being the Toon Blue Eyes White Dragon. Technically, it's still a Blue Eyes White Dragon, it's just a Toon version. So it still counts. At least I'm saying it does. If Blue Eyes, like, Shining White Dragon thingamafricker, counts, then shouldn't Toon Blue Eyes White Dragon count? So basically, yeah, the Barrier Spell and Toon Blue Eyes White Dragon are also there. They're the other two cards. And basically, Izuku just freely admits to himself, Izuku Midoriya, sacrifice the insert barrier spell name here, and Toon Blue Eyes White Dragon to summon forth 2 more Blue Eyes White Dragon. And the reason why he did this, like, sacrificed 2 cards in order to get 2 more Blue Eyes, is like, basically the area is a big square where they're doing the test, the practical portion. So, why not, at each, point, have a Blue Eyes surveying the area and taking, pot shots at, like, random unsuspecting robots. Just blasting them to Kingdom Come. And technically, since Izuku himself is the Blue Eyes White Dragon, they can't, disqualify him for this. So, basically, that's technically 5 Blue Eyes White Dragon. And, this would show just how smart Izuku actually was. He planned ahead of time. Before he actually even entered UA, is whenever he did this, actually. So, the Blue Eyes were waiting for the signal. All 4 of them. Izuku gave the signal. And, well, basically the signal was the equivalent of blowing a dog whistle. In which, technically, since, like, he's the one summoning them, they're the only ones who can actually hear it. And so, automatically, as soon as giving the signal, they would do the dirty deeds. And Izuku would only really use these guys for, like, the 3-pointers. Because the 3-pointers are the ones that are as big as buildings. The 1 and 2-pointers, Izuku can just go into defense mode. Because that's basically him, but with a Blue Eyes power-up. So he's only slightly powered up. He can take out 1 and 2-pointers fine. But, he likes to rain death from above whenever it comes to 3-pointers. But then comes the hectic moment. Everybody's running like chickens with their heads cut off. And, Tenko goes to, like, find Izuku. And he's like, Izuku, come on! And Izuku's like, no, I hear something. It sounds like a yell for help. And yes, it is Uraraka. Like I said, dead weight. Pretty much arm candy. And, she's under rubble and about to get smushed by big old 0-pointer out of nowhere. And that's whenever a second signal is given out. A second blow of the whistle. And this second blow of the whistle basically signals all of the Blue Eyes to encroach upon the 0-pointer, latch onto it, basically dragging it down to the ground, basically pinning it there, and, basically, Izuku just punches its face open, like a big old hole, like, just right in there, and blasts straight in, like, overheating the core, and then, like, actually going straight through the core, causing a giant chain reaction explosion. In which, actually, right before the explosion happens, a third blow of the whistle happens, and that third blow of the whistle basically signals for all 4 of the Blue Eyes to basically get Ochako the hell out of there. and once they do, automatically be desummoned. And as soon as this happens, Izuku would see two Blue Eyes White Dragons, the Barrier Spell card, and one Toon Blue Eyes White Dragon appear all in his hand. And he would reposition them back into his deck, in which he brought with him. Yes, he literally set up an entire deck. In which he would use to assist himself at any certain time. Come any sort of thing. And then basically, Izuku would turn full Blue Eyes White Dragon and, grab Tenko and, surround him with the tail and basically put him on his back. And just shoot! And, fly straight through the gate. And then at the last second, Tenko would remind Izuku about the fact that he kind of has motion sickness from that. Every time that happens. Every time Izuku does that. And Izuku now, he feels bad for doing that. He seems very forgetful whenever it comes to certain things. And he seems to remember that being because he's very excitable. And whenever he becomes excited, he tends to forget things. And, Tenko even knows that, so, it's an easily forgivable action. And so, yeah, just at the end of the day, both Izuku and Tenko get back home, and not just a few days later, a letter is received in the mail from UA. And it is a disc, which has a little button on it. The button is pushed by, basically, Ryuku, because no one else was doing anything, so she just decided to do it. Because currently Aizawa was enjoying his coffee, and, Tenko and Izuku were to try and decide, who in between either of them should be the one to do it. And so Ryuku just does it instead. I kind of tired of, just waiting for either of them to do it. So, basically the recording of All Might just plays out and says, actually says something very, very, well, it actually says that the person with the top score out of the two of them is actually Izuku. And it's well, what do you mean? Wouldn't it be the person with the better score out of the two of us? And basically, the All Might hologram will go on to explain, because the person with the higher score than the other was the person to basically get top score. And not only that, but the top score that they got actually broke his record of 300 points. Because they themselves got a total of pretty much surprising literally no one out of their two parents. Quadruple that. Yes, literally freaking 12,000 points. But 3, 6, 9, 12, quadruple as in that. Basically 12,000 points. but also stating that Shigaraki basically got, close to enough for that, like 9,510. Not really 9,510, more like 9,515. And you know, Tenko is just like, oh, so close. And, Aizawa and Ryuku would be like, now you guys expect way too much out of yourselves. You should be happy. I mean, I don't think anyone's ever been able to do quadruple All Might's record. And, Tenko, what you did in yourself is already amazing as it is. And, the four of them hug it out. And, well, what would happen is, pretty much like close to the next day, would be the first day of UA. Basically, whenever, Tenko would be like, come on, Izuku, you're distracting yourself with those cards. Again, aren't you? And Izuku would be like, I'm the one having to sort out monster cards, spell cards, and trap cards. Anyways, like you were saying, and Tenko's like, I believe this is the door to 1A. And Izuku's like, the hell do they think are going to come in here? Giants? Well, UA, surprise me. And Tenko's like, damn. Basically, as soon as they get in there, they see Ida and Bakugo fighting. And basically, the resolution of this problem, basically, turning into the defense form, like defense mode. That's basically what Izuku does. He goes into defense mode, and with that power up, he basically just grabs Bakugo and sits him in his seat. And basically gorilla tapes his legs to the legs of the desk so he can't put his feet back up on it, so the Ida will hopefully shut the hell up. And, Shigaraki's just like, okay then. Not really Shigaraki Tenko, but it's just saying, like, okay then. And basically, Tenko doesn't try to make too much small talk. He's just really not into too much, except for, doing what they're here to do, become heroes. And Izuku has, like, this more or less just, kinda, in the now kind of personality. Whatever's in the now is what he's going to take charge. And that's whenever the two realize what they kind of forgot. It's been a while. So they kind of forgot, actually. And just now, as Aizawa is getting out of his little caterpillar thing, his little sleeping bag, they just now remember. Shit, the freaking adopted dad is the teacher of the class they got into. Basically, they also both now notice that they kind of said that out loud. Basically, you know, everybody's like staring them down, like almost like they are just dying to ask them questions. But I saw even before they were able to do anything, it's just like it took you 8 seconds to shut the hell up. That's far too long. Now, take these. And, Izuku just realizing what they're going to be doing, just does a little bit of a Toon Blue Eyes White Dragon sized laser and cuts off the gorilla tape from Bakugo's legs, freeing him so that he can do the thing. Hopefully he'll do the thing and not just cause a scene more than he already has. And, well, basically as I was like, take these, get into the changing rooms, and change into these, and, meet me outside at the, area. We're going to do a quirk assessment test. And, well, whenever everybody hears that, basically, everything's done. Basically, as I was like, for one who got the highest score and the entrance exam goes first. So, Izuku, and Izuku's just like, well, son of a... Basically, he gets in the square, and basically just like, he like rallies it up like 1, 2, 3, and just skyrockets. Like, Izuku forgot how much attack power Blue Eyes actually has. To like literally rocket that thing. But he's not done yet. He shoots little, like, fine-lined, tiny little Toon Blue Eyes White Dragon sized beam that, carries the ball even further than how it would originally have gone with just the strength alone of the Blue Eyes. And he's not even in defense form yet, so that just tells you alone, like, if Izuku surprised himself, that's just like, wow. And he actually ends up getting Infinity. And Aizawa actually basically just reminds himself who his son is. And is like what his quirk is, what it does. And he's just like, why the hell would I even be bothered with being surprised? And yeah. And everybody is just like, what? Nani? I mean, if Uraraka's not going to be there to get Infinity, I think our main character should at least be the one to get Infinity. And, they actually go through a couple balls in order for Tenko to actually, get it right and not decay the ball. He has to remember 5 fingers and it decays. Not 5 fingers and it'd be fine. It takes him a little bit to kind of get that through. But Tenko finally is like wrist flick it, and it goes for a good while, like around half of Izuku's score. Or at least half of Izuku's score with just the power of the regular blue eyes. But, with the Toon Blue Eyes, like beam, sending it even further, it's more or less around half of the original Blue Eyes score would have been. Yeah. So, yeah. Basically everything like side-to-side lunges, the race, like the grip test, all these different things. All these different things Izuku's pretty good at. And he isn't too surprised whenever he figures out that he's actually out the top of the board. And Tenko is pretty much tied with a certain Shoto Todoroki and Bakugo below them. And I was always like, that isn't right. How is there a possible tie? And then he realizes that Shoto kid is Endeavor's son. Well, I'll be damned. I'll be damned. And it turns out that All Might was actually watching this entire quirk assessment test. And, as everybody would be, going home, being told by Aizawa that it's all just a logical ruse to get them to try harder. How he said that the person with the lowest score would get expelled. It was all just a logical ruse to get everyone to try their hardest. Which, technically, Izuku and Tenko, pretty much living with this man, already knew, way before anybody else. Even got close to figuring that out. And basically, considering, All Might isn't completely stupid, and seeing, Tenko scores on the test, and the fact that he actually, pretty much, borderline tied with Shoto Todoroki, the son of a rival of his, the number 2 hero, Endeavor. The fact that he basically, tied with him. All Might also sees that, Tenko has that personality where he would be just right. It isn't too obvious, but there honestly is a little bit of that heroic spirit, from Nanashimura in there. It's in there, but it's very reserved. But it's still in there. And that's just the push that Toshinori Yagi here needs in order to find his successor. Because, he's getting pretty desperate. And so, he finds someone who has all the qualities that he think someone would need right about now. And so he sees this kid, pretty much brothers with the guy who got the highest score. However, even though he didn't get the highest score, he didn't need time with the person to get the second highest, who is literally the son of, his rival, the number 2 hero, Endeavor, his son being Shoto Todoroki. And so, basically, well, Tanko and Izuku are walking home. Basically, whenever they get to their house, a little pebble would hit the window of Tanko's room, and Tanko would be like, "What the fuck?" Be like, "Hello?" He would open his window, seeing somebody down there, and he'd be like, "Oh, you gotta be freaking kidding me!" For Christ's sake. So freaking stupid. And mom and, dad are out. Mom is supposed to be getting groceries, and dad is, well, he never really said what he was doing, but I think that, if he's still out, must be something important. And so, Dukes a Hazard, Tanko just opens his window all the way, and he basically goes all the way back to the wall, and running start, he just takes a running start, then jumps onto his bed and off of his bed through the window, and it's just like careening down, and he lands on his feet like a cat, like direct landing. But does like a barrel roll before he hits the ground, landing on his feet like a cat. And, All Might's just like, whoa. Oh, yeah, I knew something was right about this. It's definitely a reason. Good successor. Basically, Tenko isn't dumb, so he's able to put 2 and 2 equals 4 together. Successor to your quirk? Wait, you're saying... Wait. The quirk is pass honorable? And, All Might's just like... Yeah? And, Tenko's just like... And you're wanting to give it to me. Are you sure your head's on right? Like, not to insult you or anything, but are you sure your head's on right, All Might? And All Might's just like... Oh, I am very sure. You're the perfect kind of person to have this quirk. And Tenko's just like, are you sure that's not my brother you're talking about? And, All Might's like, the only problem I seem to have is your lack of self-confidence. And Tenko's like, oh, if you only knew, All Might, if you only knew. So basically, All Might just starts talking about, like, just eat this hair. And another thing, like, even though you'll have eaten the DNA and everything, basically, you're going to need to do some exercises so you can handle all the power as well. So, yes, hair digesting and, physical workout to be able to handle the power of One For All. And considering a certain what if for whenever they did a certain what if, and like where it had Bakugo have One For All instead of Izuku, and and that what if for had Bakugo name like the thing different than Izuku. Izuku named it Full Cowling, but Bakugo named it something else. So I'm gonna have it to where Tenko names it something else. Basically figuring it out on his own. Like All Might, whenever he was first training Izuku, he was like put all the energy in like the middle, but it must be that One For All user intuition through like the blood of Nana Shimura that Tenko's able to figure it out very quick, fast, and in a hurry That's not how you do it. And also, basically, just how not to break your bones. Because, Nana and Gran Torino were the ones that pretty much, gave All Might what he has. So, basically, I would think that Tenko would get it a lot faster than Izuku would in canon. And even have a lot better control than Izuku would in canon. And by a lot, I mean a lot. Like, shit tons of a lot. More control, and just better usage of the quirk. One for all. Just what would he call his thing that he would have eventually? What would he call it? Well, I think I might actually have something. Well, basically, in this story, Izuku and Tenko are indeed brothers, and the constant, contradictions and, like, levels of power scaling in between the two, it's almost like there's a duality, like a certain, like a, exactly that, a duality in between the two. One of them is, like, constantly ascending, and the other one's just, making it by, or just, like, around the bend of the same level of power. Just barely making it by, though. So there is indeed a duality of someone who excelled very fast and someone who is still trying to excel. They're not exactly excelling slowly, but their acceleration rate is indeed a little bit slower than that of their brethren. And, seeing as there's this duality in between the two of them, that is indeed what Tenko would call it. It basically has a representation of how Tenko feels about his entire life and everything. And, like, his relationship with his brother and how, like, his entire relationship with his family. He would call it full duality. And, seeing as there would be such a mastery of so many years, like Nana Shimura and Gran Torino, and basically so many, like, good, like, influence of the power of One for All, and what this new ability that he dubbed and is currently dubbing Full Duality, the amount that he would be able to use a Full Duality, basically, he would actually, before he would start breaking any bones or anything, he would at least be able to get up to 30%. 35 would be straining it, and so he wouldn't even bother right now trying to get to 35 and, like, hold it for a long amount of time. So he just wouldn't bother with 35 at all unless he was, like, training to get to a higher percentage. And that's why. So right now, his, like, highest is 30% full duality. Tenko's is. He's basically got all the way to 30% of One for All, and his new ability, basically called it Full Duality, like 30% Full Duality. And basically how Full Duality acts upon, Tenko, basically instead of, like, 5 fingers and you're dead, like, this quirk that's fully, like, fueled off of emotion, Tenko now has a hell of a lot better control of. Like, he can put 5 fingers on something and not, like, decay it. He has a hell of a lot better control. However, whenever he does want to decay something, it is freaking gone. Just presto changeo and it's done. And it's like irreparable damage. But it doesn't just stop with decay. Like, there's actually, you know how, Tenko and Izuku both know about how All Might has his attacks, like the Detroit Smash, the Texas Smash, all that. Indeed, you will actually be able to coat certain, attacks that All Might has, and he'll be able to coat them in the very power of the decay quirk, basically increasing the power of the attack. And this decay will basically also be coated in, like, whatever percent of full duality Tenko wants to use. So that's like a double buff. And Tenko realizes he can do this. So the first thing he wants to try out is what might possibly be, besides United States of Smash and Plus Ultra, All Might's most iconic move besides the 100% Smash, because that's just the one-for-all coursing through everything and all that. So just, like, basic, generic, like, move of All Might that Tenko can remember, like, off the top of his head. He pulls back his fist, and he finds a really big, really big rock formation. And he just pulls back his fist, and he's like, he's just starting out like a small. He's like, should I start out small, or do you want me to go all the way? All Might actually wants to see what 30% of full duality would look like in whatever attack he's going to use on this giant rock formation. And considering that up to 30% is where, like, he gets to the point where he still isn't, like, breaking any bones. It's only, like, whenever he gets to around, like, 35 that there's, like, things to worry about. Like, 31 to 34 is where some side effects start to show, and 35 is when our bones actually start to break. So, basically, 30 is the safe point. That's the best he can do without actually hurting himself in any way. So basically, just reel back his hand, and basically, he's just like 30% full duality. Detroit Smash! And all I would just see, basically, not like what happened to the rock formation, but would just see that, like, it's almost like it popped out of existence. Because the moment he hit it with the Detroit Smash, 30% full duality, it's like it's popped out of existence. Like, 1 second is there, and 1 second it's not. That's literally how powerful 30% full duality is. And, Tenko sees that too, and he's like, oh, shit. Good God. He's starting to think that he might be able to contend with his brother and this Shoto kid, with this power, but he doesn't want to go all the way against his brother. He doesn't want to use 30%. And he doesn't even want to go to the point where he would, like, go into full duality. He would just, would like to use regular, like, like, special edition One for All against his brother. He doesn't want to, like, make anything, like, personal. Like, he doesn't want to escalate things if he doesn't have to. Because they're supposed to be family, so he doesn't want to cause any family conflict. And so, yeah. That basically has happened. And indeed, basically, after a few days, the one day it's just Izuku and Tenko, they're just like talking amongst themselves because really their father hasn't done anything except for just announce that there's going to be combat training, and then just almost like he's staring into space. Almost like he's waiting for somebody, but really doesn't care who it is. Just waiting for them to show up. And so he doesn't care that his, like, sons are talking amongst themselves. He really doesn't give a shit. That is until his name is All Might. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. And literally just comes in there like John Cena. And, All Might pronounces basically is like, clothes make the pros and everything, and also it's gonna be 2 versus 2. Hero team, villain team. Villains go in first because, there's a bomb involved. And they gotta plant the bomb. And, there's several different ways you can win for, like, each party involved. So, yeah. Basically, All Might just explains it the best he can. And, it's one thing that basically Tenko finds that is very uncomfortable with is basically in the midst of everybody being assigned who's the villain, who's the hero. Izuku brings something up. He brings up that he noticed something happen, like he heard the sound of the pebble hitting the window of Tenko's room. And so he went in there to inspect shit, saw that Tenko's window was open, and he saw footprints. And he followed those footprints. Basically, spying on Tenko and All Might. And hearing everything that there was to be said, and seeing everything that there was to see. Now knowing All Might's chosen a successor to his quirk, and that successor is his brother. And from the looks of it, Izuku does not look too happy. And Tenko really doesn't, like, he kind of does know, but he doesn't know at the same time. Like, aren't they supposed to be family? I mean, come on, this is a little bit extreme for you to be giving me those looks, Izuku. And, Izuku is just like... So you don't know. Why? Why you're being so extreme, Izuku? No, I don't. And Izuku's just like... You left me out of something really important. You could have come and got me duality once you noticed it was All Might. You know how we both, you and me both, respect the hell out of All Might. That he's like our favorite hero, both of us. And yet you didn't let me in on this. You could have at least told me whenever you came back home, but no, the entire night you did not say a peep. Not even to our own parents. Now do you understand why I'm pissed? And now Tanko's beginning to understand a lot more why Izuku's that way. Yeah, it kinda was an extreme dick move to do what he did. Not say anything. Even though Tenko's right, he does know about them both being huge All Might fans. So kinda doing what he did was a dick move. Like, if they're supposed to be family, then why did he do that? Like, why? Tanko is like, now he's beating himself up inside. For, like, literally being... He just wasn't thinking. Just had to do that. He just had to do that. What is wrong with him? Like, even with One for All, and this new ability he calls Full Duality, even with all of that, he's still no better than he was before. And that's whenever Izuku looks at him and is just like, but hey, if it's any consolation, I could see in your eyes that you realize what happened was a mistake, and that try not to make as many or anything as big anytime in the future, or all that soon in the future at least. So, I forgive you. And that's basically a huge weight lifted off of Tenko's shoulders right there. Izuku basically like letting bygones be bygones. And this next thing that's about to happen here is gonna help a lot of steam be blown off. To the point where Izuku really isn't gonna care all that much anymore after this. Because basically, like, it's Team A versus Team D. Team A being, well, it's actually Tanko and a certain someone. Shoto Todoroki. Yes, Tanko has to work with the guy who he tied with. And Shoto isn't even all that happy about it either. So yeah, they're kinda in the midst of a bad situation, like a bad romance. Ching, if you please. And Team D, the villain team, is, well, basically as soon as, like, Tanko hears this, his heart drops down to, like, the very bottom pits of his inner being. And Shoto realizes this and is just like, wait, what's so important about this? Like, he's only, like, your brother, and plus, he's paired up with someone who he doesn't even like either. So basically, pretty much equal. And right before he's even able to finish that sentence, he gets a gut punch with pretty much, it's safe to say, at least 15% full duality. Yeah, gut punch with 15%. out of what he's already able to be using without hurting himself, 30. So yeah, I believe 15 is pretty close to 30. Yeah, so Shoto is like reeling in pain right now. And he realizes this guy you do not want to mess with. Like, regardless if they're working together. Or at least supposed to. So yeah, plus, another thing that caused that little punch to happen is that Tenko realizes Izuku's on the villain team. And the effects that must be having on Izuku right now, he might not even be thinking all that much about the fact that he has to work with Bakugo, just the fact that he's on the villain team. And not only that, but he's fighting his brother. So yeah, right now, Tenko's feeling pretty bad for his brother right now. And basically, what ends up happening is Shoto basically just voices his little thing that he is pretty much going to flash freeze the area that they're at, like around their area. Pretty much keep anyone who's trying to attack them from actually getting to them. Or else they will be frozen. Basically what Shoto does is he makes it like an instant flash freeze. Is what he's telling, Tenko right now. And he's basically just gonna instant flash freeze whoever comes down here. And that basically means that if Shoto has to freeze whoever comes down there, that means basically Tenko's realizing he's going to have to be the one to come up there, do whatever. But, the thing about that, basically, Izuku is basically, he sees his brother coming up there, and how Bakugo isn't really doing anything about it, because he would really rather just be on the sidelines and watch things from afar, because he's not in the best of ways right now. And he doesn't want to take his chances with as Bakugo called him, Icy Hot Kid. Now, he's not really liking the odds of him getting out of that one. So basically, yeah, Izuku basically just being all silent treatment to Bakugo. Bakugo's like, what the hell are you doing? And he just, Izuku just straight up tells him, I'm not going to help you. And Bakugo's like, wait, what? Never mind. I'll beat both of them. Show you. And Izuku's just like, just like ignoring Bakugo. And it just pisses him off even more. It just gets to the, thing where Tenko gets up there and he sees basically that much as ever, Izuku doing what he does best, annoying the shit out of Bakugo. And he's only doing it just by sleeping, or pretending to sleep. God knows which one that actually is. Like, if he was actually sleepy, or if he's just pretending to be asleep just to piss Bakugo off. And so basically, with Bakugo charging at him like a freaking bull seeing red, Tenko doesn't like that. And it kind of gets him into offensive positions. But, Bakugo is in the close enough range to where he gets into offensive positions. Actually, Izuku, knowing about the whole one-for-all thing, and, his special ability, his brother's new special ability, and how Bakugo would pretty much basically, one of the things that he was admitting to Izuku is that he has these cool little grenade gauntlets, like pull the pin. And he basically just admitted, like, if something ended up happening, just in order for the other team to not win, he would pull both pins, just to make sure that they didn't win. Regardless of what damage it did to Izuku. And Izuku's just like, he's just now noticing both pins pulled. Like, literally, the gauntlets are just now ready. Right as 30% sent right towards him. 30% of full duality and a little bit of a thing. You hear Tenko scream, Detroit Smash! And with a 30% full duality Detroit Smash versus 2 of the sweat nitroglycerin grenade things, 2 of the pins being pulled at the same time. And Bakugo is basically gonna pull an Ash from the first Pokemon movie and get in between that. That's what Izuku is going to do. And he's going to go full, like, blue eyes white dragon mode to try to brace for impact like no other. But he only gets to mid-transformation before everything just collapses in on itself in terms of the 2 attacks. Of the shockwave from the 30% full duality Detroit Smash, and the shockwave big let off from the 2 pins blowing up. And Bakugo's sweat gauntlets. And basically what's left, like, when all the smoke is clear, basically, like, Tenko can see there is no rest of the top floor left. Like, everything is gone. There is only, like, the lower floors left. Like, the entire floor they were just now on is gone. Including the bomb. It got disintegrated within the midst of the explosion. And, he's just looking around, trying to find his brother, even though he's on the opposite team. And he does find Izuku in the nick of time, because he was literally just about to die there. And, Izuku is just, like, conscious enough, just enough to be like, just to look his brother in the eye and be like, Tenko, why did you do it? If you knew that's what he was going to do, then why? And Tenko would try to speak up to defend himself, or, like, try to say something, but then he would hear, Tenko, I hate you. And then just pass out like bleh. And, Tenko, his heart, if it hadn't already sank to the bottom, now it's like frozen cold like Davy Jones' locker. Like, just ice bath Mageddon. Like, his entire soul, his entire everything has just been, like, he doesn't even know anymore. He's just been told by his brother right before, like, going out. He doesn't even know if he just passed out or if he actually is dead. He doesn't even know which one of those he is. Those, for all he knows, those could have been the last words he had ever heard from his brother. The fact that he hated him. And, the whole misunderstanding that he thought that he did that on purpose, to hurt him on purpose. Because, he was taking 2 really strong attacks from both ends. And from the look in Izuku's eyes right before the attacks hit, Tenko could tell that was only from instinct. Like heroic instinct flowing through his veins. That he really didn't have a choice in the matter. It was his heroic instinct that forced him to do that. So really, you couldn't call it his fault. He didn't have. There was no other process going through his mind, and his body just moved on its own and acted on its own. So you can't really fault him for that, because if he had no control, and he really didn't have that all much control of anything. And so, but you gotta imagine Tenko, the way he feels, those might as well have been the last words that his brother had ever said to him again. And he doesn't know if that isn't true. He doesn't know if his brother is dead or not. And the feelings that he's having towards Bakugo right now, Bakugo might want to stay away from Tenko for a while. And Shoto is just right there, and he is like the only one who goes over there to comfort Tenko in his time of what he believes to be the ultimate grieving. Because he knows that how he, pretty much lost his brother Tenko. Not Tenko, Toya. Basically, lost his brother Toya. And, talking all about that. And so, basically, if indeed it is end up being said, that Izuku is, dead, that he would indeed know how he feels. Because of the fact that he lost a brother. To a freak accident. Or at least that's what Shoto thinks. He doesn't know about the fact that Toya now goes by the villain alias Dabi. And has actually changed his appearance somewhat. So, yeah. That's just a hectic mess of life everybody's leading up until, this whole point. And, beyond. And that's indeed where I'm going to leave off. Yeah, cliffhanger, I know. You guys can hate me all you want, because even I know it's a big dick move to leave on, a cliffhanger like this. But hey, I mean, it's a living.